Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel out here in the bowl. And today I have the day off of work, so I think I'm going to concentrate on the high ridge and just starting to chew that down and get that down into the lower part. And I think today's just going to be about having fun. You know, we can worry about productivity, we can worry about trying to, use brute power and burn lots of diesel, make lots of smoke, make lots of noise, and move lots of dirt. But I think I'm going to leave the D2 parked right where she is. She's all covered up, nice and comfortable in there. So if I don't use the D2, what does that leave me? The Farmall H. I know, I can hear your guys' heads exploding right now. Pew, pew, it's great, I love it. I mean, I know how you guys like to tell me I'm always using the wrong piece of equipment. I'm just having fun now. So we'll take the H, and I've got, pardon my shadow, I've got the old Tumblebug scraper out here. Now, I used this behind the H for many hours sloping the road that goes out here. Here is said road. We were just back in there over the hill. So I used that Farmall H and that Tumblebug to slope each side of this. It was about 10 years ago. I had all this gravel put in here with landscape fabric mat below it. It was a 12-inch thick layer that had abrupt drop-offs on each side. And where these hay bales are stockpiled right now, used to be a little bit of a rise, and it would cause water to come in and pool along the inside radius of this corner right here. So I took that old H and that old Tumblebug, and I went and chewed this rise down where these hay bales are, and I'd scoop a load. I'd come up next to the gravel base, and I'd dump that load right up next to it. I'd go back for a second load, come back with that, and then I'd drop that next to the first one that I put down, which gave me kind of a wide base out from the road. I'd go back a third time, do a third pass, and drop that again next to the gravel right on top of my first one. So that's how I got a gradual slope out from that gravel base, and I was able to get my full width at the same time. I almost forgot to mention, if you don't believe me, I did make a YouTube video of that way back in the day doing that process. That was with my old camera before I could edit, before I talked, before anything. It's pretty low tech, but if you want to see what I was doing right there, I'll put the link to that video in the description below, just so you know I'm not BSing you. Now back to the story. So this road is about 600 feet long, just a touch over that actually, and it would take me 3 circuits with the H and the Tumblebug and deposit 3 different loads to make 6 feet of headway along one side. So I'm not very good at math. I might try and figure it out later. Long story short, that was a lot of trips, and I put a lot of miles on that H and that old Tumblebug sloping the sides of this road. But back then, it's what I had. It's the best that I had to do what I needed to do, and certainly at carrying material that far. And I kind of made friends with it. So today I'm just going to kind of take a little trip down memory lane. We'll just have some fun with that H and that Tumblebug. I'll show you the process that I used to move all that material there, and maybe we'll get something done at the same time. I don't know. Let's see. So the experience that I gained by using the H and this Tumblebug to slope that driveway taught me that this thing's actually a little bit big to be behind that H. And if I can take shallower cuts but longer cuts with this, I can load this thing up and actually roll material up and out the back of the bowl. If I try and do an aggressive cut, it'll spin that H out on the spot. So another thing I learned, if I took this spring tooth cultivator over the ground first, use this kind of as a ripper slash subsoiler, very low tech, poor man's ripper subsoiler, it would pre-loosen the material enough where I could come in with this Tumblebug behind the H, and I could just modulate a shallower cut with the loading lever, and this thing would load to the point where I could boil material up out of the back. If I tried to go into hard packed dirt with this and tried to make an aggressive cut, it would just spin that H right out. It would stop me right in my tracks. So it's been years and years since I've used this old spring tooth. It usually just sits down here. So I got it greased up, pulled it out of the weeds, and I brought a new trip rope with me because I was expecting this one to be completely rotted off. I mean, look, it's got it's got moss growing on it. So it seemed like it was still kind of sturdy. So now I'm at the point where I just want to see how long this thing lasts. So I got more ropes, that's no big deal. So anyway, I'll get the spring tooth out with the H. We'll do a bit of loosening on that ridge first, and then we'll start moving some material. Okay, so that was 3 passes with the cultivator. It loosened this ground nicely. That scraper is going to bite and it's going to fill fast. That was quite rough out here, but as I start doing the cut, this is going to start smoothing off significantly. And as I expected, I just picked this little pile of rocks right here out of that. That's going to be a thing. Every time you break the ground out here, it's miserable with rocks. So we'll be picking a lot of those out. But now, let's start scraping. Dump that last load, show you guys something. Kind of woke me up as I was coming off the hill. Found this guy right here. You can see when I struck that, it kicked it up and I dumped about half the load. I had to scoop again, but we'll get him picked out of there. Oh, the joys. There, first rock sled full. So look at this. Senior shows up with the little 4-8 end and the disc on the back. He's gonna try his hand at loosening the hillside for me. So it's always good to have reinforcements. Well, we're filling the rock sled again, but I want to show you guys how this cultivator rolled this giant rock out. And as you can see, it's pretty good at picking those things out and getting them on the surface. But look at this thing. That is just something. That is normally a backhoe rock. It's a lot of extra work picking all this rock out of here, but I tell you what, I like it that way because I got a lot cleaner fill that I'm putting down in the bowl. Those old timers really knew their stuff. They really had these things figured out when they made them. I think that these springy tines roll out rocks like that. It's a wonder these hold up as well as they do. Well, the sun is starting to get awfully low in the sky, although it still looks pretty bright on the camera here. And I think I'm ready to call it a day with the H and the old Tumblebug. And I'll tell you what, guys, that H put a hurting on this hill today. I'll get down here out of that glare, down in the fill here right now. And I'm very pleased with how sandy all of this material is. In our climate, sand is good because it does not hold water. And if it does not hold water, that means when the frost comes in the winter, the heaving is at a minimum. So that is very, very good that that hill is as red as it is. And you can see from where we used to have ground level, right about where that greenery is right there, it's about a 2-foot drop what we took off this hill, and it slopes towards that basswood. So we don't have nearly the rise right here, and the bowl is filling in. So all in all, everything did a pretty good job. I want to show you though, just I think the second to last pass, I think I broke the scraper. And this bungee cord here has something to do with it. I'll explain why. I noticed this assist spring was just dangling down, and where these two rivets are right here, you can see on the inside it looks like there should be something that goes on them. Well, that is a little bracket that sticks down with an eyelet down here that holds that assist spring, and all that does is to help you get a little bit lesser of a pull on the loading lever. Basically, it takes some of the tension up on the bottom and allows you to actuate this lever and load this thing easier. So this was not an absolute must-fix thing. I could still keep going with it. It just meant that I had to pull a little harder on that lever to do it. So I remember what that piece looked like, because I remember looking at it and seeing that it was starting to wear kind of loose, but it's like anything else. It's like, we'll see how long it goes. So I'm going to have to make a new one of those. So we'll end up hauling the old scraper home, get it up to the shop, get that done. But I'm pretty satisfied with what the old H did today. And if you guys had half as much enjoyment out of watching this as I did filming it, I'm going to call it a success. I just love pulling that old slip scraper, that little Tumblebug, and really brought me back to the day. Back before I was old, gray-haired, and grumpy all the time. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I got a little bit of repair to do on that scraper, and I think I'm going to keep using it. I'm halfway there with this ridge right here now. Once I get this thing flattened out and put down in the cut, we'll see how much we have to take off up there and then reevaluate whether or not we got to get into that brush. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Hope to see you back again, guys.